It's been a minute, so let's let the audience enjoy, right? You are here today because you were with me for the Callisto Protocol interviews that we did with Striking Distance Studios, the new studio behind this exciting new horror game, and they were very generous with their information. We got a lot, and I'm excited. Shay, do you want to launch into what Callisto is, and then we can chop it up from gameplay, story, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so Callisto Protocol is the new game from Glenn Schofield and his team. So Glenn Schofield is the creator of the Dead Space series, and he also was the co-founder of Sledgehammer Games, which has put out a few Call of Duty games, most notably probably World War II. What are the ones they put out? Advanced Warfare.
They did the most recent was that
Vanguard.
Vanguard, yeah, that was
So
Sledgehammer.
yeah, that's the studio that he co-founded, and then he just founded a new studio called Striking Distance Studios, and this is their first game. It is published by the same company that publishes PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and originally it was announced to be a part of that universe. Even as recently as when I wrote the cover story, he was like, yeah, it's in the PUBG universe. It's just like so far down the timeline, so far in the future that you're going to see little references to PUBG, but you're not going to miss anything if you don't know the story of PUBG or like the universe of PUBG. It's just like PUBG happened centuries ago, and now we're out on Callisto.
PUBG is my favorite narrative game, though, to be fair.
But yeah, now it comes out and it's like, oh, by the way, we decided it's no longer the PUBG universe, which is kind of funny that it happened in the time since I wrote the cover story, and then this week he comes out saying that. But whatever, it does. I don't think it's going to end up affecting anything too much, just because of the nature of how detached it was in the first place. But yeah, so this is very much in line with the Dead Space franchise in terms of like the vibes, the characters, and everything. Like it all feels like this is kind of a spiritual successor to Dead Space. So basically, after Glenn left Sledgehammer Games, I think this was in 2018, 2019.
Sounds right.
He went on like a retreat out in Arizona, and he was just like, all right, I'm gonna basically just take some time off, get away from it all, because he's been, I'm sure, working a lot of hours on the Call of Duty franchise. So he's probably like, yeah, I need a break, need to get away from it all. And during that time, he got his start in the industry as an artist. And so he, in the time where it wasn't like group, like spa activities and everything that like this resort was known for, he just kind of like went out into the desert and started drawing and painting out there, and started off like painting and sketching like the fauna,
the nature,
like the desert wildlife and the desert plants and everything. And then eventually he started like coming up with game ideas, and one of those ideas was called Meteor Down, I believe that was the name of it. And it was about like a meteor that kind of crashed into this prison, and then it caused it to like have all like this alien activity and everything. But now he was like, I was a little on the nose, but he was actually resistant to doing a game that was so similar to Dead Space, because he's like, oh, it's our first game like as a studio. I don't want to do something that's like, oh, well, we're just going to play the hits. So instead, he's kind of resistant. And then the more he thought of it, the more he was like, you know what, like all the best artists like steal from each other. So like, why shouldn't I steal from myself? So he went in and just decided it was time to do a game that was similar to Dead Space in many ways, but also like expanding on the formula, expanding on the concept, and, taking place in a very different universe. This is not like a sequel or anything. This is a whole new thing on its own. But, there are definite similarities. Like the protagonist, Jacob, he has a like the life meter on his neck, similar to the way Isaac in Dead Space did. And, he's not like a guy who's like trained to do any of this stuff. Like he's not like a soldier or anything. He's just like a cargo ship pilot that crash landed in the on Callisto, which is one of the moons of Jupiter. Mm-hmm. And it's also like so Callisto is like one of the great hopes for like humanity's life beyond Earth. Like they're like, I guess scientists have actually pointed out like, oh, it's like one of the places in our galaxy that also seems like it could have some water. So like, that's kind of expanding on this idea. And like they've they've kind of started colonizing Callisto, and one of the things on it already is like this maximum security prison, and that's where all of this goes down. Is like, you know, all this stuff is happening, but like, yeah, there's like some sort of like either supernatural or extraterrestrial threat that has invaded this prison on Callisto, and Jacob, who is stuck there, must now like escape while figuring out what the heck is going on. And, you know, there's just these grotesque monstrosities running amok in the prison, and, you know, it's just a constant cycle of building tension, uh relieving that tension sometimes making the tension more significant by giving you like fake outs and like being like, all right, well, we're not ready to pay off that tension build just yet, which is something that Glenn actually spoke at length with me about, with like, you know, kind of the art of building and releasing tension. And that was, you know, few people know how to do it as well as he does. So I saw, I guess, like 30 minutes of gameplay, and it's pretty intense, man. Like 3 different segments of gameplay, and I was riveted by it, and I watched it multiple times so I could get as many details as possible. And I really think the game is looking amazing.
I was happily surprised how polished it looked from our time with it, right? Because cover stories vary, right? Sometimes the game looks like it's ready to ship, other times it looks like it needs, you know, 6 months, a year, and that kind of stuff. But this looks good. Alex, I'm just gonna tell you right now, you're gonna shit your pants. You are like you are going to struggle with this game, because I struggled.
I'm excited to play it.
Yeah, we should definitely do a series on it. It definitely, they're doing some interesting things. I think a lot of people already have pointed out, right? It is very similar to Dead Space, and even the dev team themselves weren't shy about some of those comparisons, but they really want people to go into it with an open mind and understand that this is its own thing as well. You know, we talked to the team about some of the creature design, which they are called biophage. The individual creatures are not named, but like instead of like the necromorphs, right? Like it is biophage this time around. And good golly, Miss Molly, some of the most revolting stuff I have seen. Like, you know, you've seen some
Looks
of
horrifying. I've just seen like
images in the
photos.
trailer. Yeah. And it is truly like, there's just so many teeth. We asked the dev team, is there going to be eye stuff similar to like in Dead Space, right? He's like, oh yeah, there's going to be eye stuff. Like they're reveling in these horrific
Body
human
horror.
monstrosities. Yeah, like
And
they really very much so.
They basically studied like a bunch of horrific real world things to make sure that the gore and like the kills are like as realistic and grotesque as possible. Like they were like taking like police footage and like just basically stuff you would never want to subject yourself to. Like even Glenn, who has seen like a lot of like horrific things through his love of horror, was just like, man, this was like bad. Like some of this stuff, like there's like one like death scene that we saw, because like there are like almost cinematic death scenes like based on what happened. So like there's one scene that I saw, I don't know if you got to see this, Alex, but it was a separate gameplay sequence I saw where like I always want to say Isaac. Jacob gets stuck in a fan, like a ventilation fan, and he just like chops him in half. And like it's like that weird like where like the body gets like kind of caught in it, and like it like takes a second to cut through. So it's like almost like he's like it's like sawing through him instead of just like a clean cut.
Yeah.
And then the other one was like this like multi-mouthed creature that like walks up to him and just bites his head off in like just a really like gruesome manner. And like the tongue is left like flailing, and they said like that's all stuff that they saw in like, you know, these real life like terrible footage situations that they studied from like crime scenes and everything. Like they even studied like how flesh decomposes after like a bullet enters it, and it's like, man, they really went the extra mile to make sure like the gore and like all the disgusting horrible things that can happen to your character and other characters in the game is like immersive and like not great to look at.
Right. Well, and we talked to them too. We tried to get there's a couple of videos that are coming on YouTube that you'll see, but when talking to the team, I asked them, I was like, so are these death scenes like Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raiders, but like on steroids. And he did the oh yeah, like so much so that we don't even want to show them or talk about them because they want that like level of surprise to be there. So it's like that was a big thing for them. It sounds like they put a lot of time into the death animations, but they
Oh, they
also
absolutely did.
they put a lot of time into combat as well, which is going to be a huge part of this game outside of the atmosphere.
What are the weapons like? Because I
So-
know, yeah, I'll let you get to it. I'm sure you are.
for sure. So they really wanted to emphasize like ranged and melee in this beautiful dance almost. They kept referring to like this rhythm that the combat presents, right? Because you have your shock baton, which is going to be your main melee weapon throughout the game. You have a little shiv and stuff like that too, because prison, right? But like, you know, your main weapon is the shock baton that you'll be able to upgrade and stuff like that. And then they were closeted about some of the weapons. They said pistol, some
Shotgun.
other shotgun. Yeah, they're really excited about the shotgun, especially with the creatures and how disgusting and how much they're going to blow up with the shotgun, right? But it all pairs with this GRP, right, Shay? Which is basically, to distill it down, is a force ability where it's used on Callisto to like move cargo, right? But in the case of the game, you can grab enemies and like shoot them into, or you can push them away. And sometimes if there's, because the environment is interactable, so it's like you could, if there's a bunch of spikes on the wall, right, you could shoot one of the biophage into the wall and they'll die because they hit the spikes or whatever. So
or like fans, yeah, just like throw them into like a really rapidly spinning fan and like turn them into basically like pink mist.
Yeah. Yeah, get a little pate.
A lot of
biophage,
Mortal Kombat-esque death sequences, whether it's like a fatality or a stage fatality. Like there are a lot of things I'm like, oh, that's like Mortal Kombat.
So, but it all culminates also into this, into the dismemberment and to the dodging system, right? Because, if you dismember certain parts of the enemy similar to Dead Space, it affects their ability to attack you or to run at you, you know what I mean? So, but doesn't always mean they're dead, right? They could be laying on the ground, doesn't mean they're dead. The dodge system is interesting. It's not just hit B to move. There is a rhythm to it where it's like if you move left on the stick, you dodge left, right, you dodge right, and then back to like move backwards. That one, I don't know, Shay, about you, but that one seemed like one I needed to get my hands on to really try it out. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I thought that like it looks like it works well, but it's like, you're not gonna know for sure until like you're standing toe to toe with a biophage that's trying to like swipe at you or grab you, and you can just kind of see how responsive it is and how easy or how difficult it is to get out of their way.
Right. Yeah. So it's like if that's overly clunky, because they did say they really feel like, from our talks with them, it feels like they really want this to be survival horror. So like, you're not going to be, at least from what they told us, that you're not going to be freewheeling the shotgun, right? You got to be careful with how you use those bullets, right? If you block at any point, which you can do, you take less damage, but you always take damage. So there is that level of, they really want this to be survival horror, not as much action, even though there will be. You have a little force.
It's a ton of action.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of it, but it's like, so I feel like it's not quite Resident Evil in that way, but it's like it's closer to that than maybe like a Dead Space 3. Is that fair, Shay?
Yeah, definitely. But like, yeah, there were a ton of things where it's like, all right, well, here's a guy crawling towards me, and shoot him before he gets close because he's going to explode all up in your business. Or like
Yeah.
jump scares, like these little like long-necked weirdos that like pop out of these pods. Like if you walk past it, they design them almost to be like landmines, where it's like if you don't spot them from a far enough distance and approach at the right angle, these things are going to jump out and like kind of latch onto your shoulder or your neck and just start munching away until you like get it off. But like there is a way that's like if you spot the pod that they reside in, it's like, oh, I can approach it from this different angle. And that's like, it's action, but it's also like meant to just like kind of keep you on your toes. He was talking about how like keeping players on their toes is always something where it's like, all right, well, you always in a survival horror game, you're always like, all right, if I open this door, is something going to jump out at me? And like, so like early on, they'll have something that jumps out at you when you open up a door, and then they'll get you to the point where you're expecting it to happen, and then they'll stop doing it for a long time, because like that way the tension's there and you're always like, oh my God, is there? No, there's nothing here. And then like you start to feel secure that, all right, when I open the door, maybe nothing's going to be there. And then that's when they're going to hit you with something behind the door. So like they're trying to get it so like there's never like an expected thing, because if you always know that something is going to jump out when you open your door, it's not scary. Or if you feel safe every time you open a door, it's not scary. So they want to keep you on your toes and make it so that way like you expect the unexpected, and through that there's just this kind of constant feeling of tension. But that's also paired with these combat sequences that are action packed, like, you know, and it's all environmentally dynamic. Like there was one sequence where Jacob had like a biophage and he just kind of pushed him up against the wall and started bashing his brains in with his baton. And it's like, all right, well, that's kind of cool. It's like it's contextually aware within the environment of like what's happening, and like you can use that stuff to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think they're expertly stoking the tension here. I'm trying to think what else, Shay.
They're using lighting to great effect as well. Like there's a sequence at the end of one of the demos that we saw where you were getting to a kind of like a maximum security prison or portion of the prison, and it was like they wanted it to, even though it's well lit, because like normally you think of like a well lit area in a game like this, it's like, oh, that's like a beacon of
safe
safety.
area.
Yeah, it's a safe zone.
Yeah.
But they wanted to use it to highlight kind of danger, and even using like the glare of that light produces, almost the way shadows are used in other horror games, where it's like, all right, that's a really dark area, I have no idea what's in there. This one, they're like, all right, well, that light is so bright that it's like almost creating a glare that makes it so I can't see like what's going on, and like it makes it
That's
so
cool.
like, yeah, so that way it's kind of like, all right, well,
you're more exposed there.
Yeah, the light is so bright that like maybe my enemies can see me, but I can't see them, because it's like when you're driving on the highway and the sun's setting and it's like it's like really hard for you to see. That's almost like some of the methods they're using. But then also they're using lighting to highlight that like maximum security area I was talking about, where it's like, all right, well, it's well lit, but something about it just feels unsettling. The way it's like just kind of like this light from above is just like beaming down. They call it the angel of death, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, like something about this just is ominous. The way it's like the way the light is positioned, and like it's casting shadows from this suspended like maximum security prison. And it's just like something about it just feels really, really bad.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah. There never feels like a safe moment, even though there will be some, but also they wouldn't, like, we asked, like, are you safe in an upgrade menu and that kind of stuff? And they're like, you're going to have to play to find out. And it's like, I know what that means. Speaking of upgrades, there are upgrades in this game, right? There are skill trees for like the shock baton, some of the weaponry and stuff. Shay, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the suit that you get eventually has some upgrades as well. They didn't detail.
Yeah, we didn't really go too much into the skill trees. They wanted to play that pretty close to the vest. But yeah, I believe there were some things you could do. I know that his suit changes over the course of gameplay. Like starts off, he's just kind of like in his prison garb as he escapes, like in the early stages. And then like the last demo we saw, he's like out in the tunnels underneath the surface of the moon. It's like this dilapidated tunnel that's collapsed in on him, and he's just trying to kind of navigate and find his way through it. And he's wearing like a full-on spacesuit that you see like in the cover story and on our cover. And it's kind of cool because like the attention to detail is wild in this, because like they zoom in and like, you know, he's wearing the glass over his face because you can't breathe on a moon. And like as he's breathing, you can see the condensation of his breath, like like when they zoom in on his face, and it's just like really, really cool the way they're doing that. But yeah, it's there's a lot of really amazing stuff in this game, and I'm dying to get my hands on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of systems in this that I think seem almost overwhelming at times, but the way I'm excited for people to actually see this, because like the way they all work together in harmony looks so good. I think that's why I'm interested in this as someone who doesn't like horror games. Usually, I should say. I guess that's not as true anymore, but I'm willing to get over some of the scares because the combat seems like it's going to be very satisfying. In one of our interviews that you'll see in the next 2 weeks or so, we talked to the team. They're working with the PlayStation controller, the DualSense, to really bring home that immersion, right? He's like,
Oh,
just wait till you feel like bones break with this thing and that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, that's going to be as awful as it is amazing, and I cannot wait. And he's like, trigger jams and like that kind of stuff, or maybe not trigger jams, but like feeling the guns and stuff like that, because I don't think he said the guns jam.
I
So
thought you meant like just the way, like I thought you were calling trigger jams like when like you pull the
like
trigger of
when
the
you
dual
pull
sense
it,
and it kind of
yeah,
stick like
when they stick
like
like that.
Astrobot kind of did.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be more of that. But I did ask him, because Jacob is a newbie to combat, basically. Like they said, no, like your gun's not going to jam. He's not going to trip or anything like that. But he is like, in his animation, he's more unwieldy and like, what the hell's going on? You know what I mean? So yeah, just top to bottom, everything looks really polished, and I'm really, really excited to see, what comes next. And I wasn't expecting that when we figured out that this was going to be the cover. I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna give that to Van Eyck, and I'm gonna keep living my happy life. But no, I am excited for this one for sure. So
Yeah, and Glenn Schofield has shown nothing if not like he understands the horror genre. Like he has a track record. This isn't just like some unproven developer coming in here. This is him founding a studio full of people that he's worked with over the years. Like he's done a lot of the recruiting himself, like going out and being like, hey, like when I was with Activision, I was really impressed with how you handled like Guitar Hero, and when I was with EA, like I was really impressed with like the production work you did on the Dead Space series. So he wanted to bring all these people he's worked with in the past to his studio, and like it seems like he's now, for the first time, I mean, he co-founded Sledgehammer, but like Activision was probably calling a lot of the shots there once they folded them into there, and then it was a co-founding situation, so there's probably some compromises that come along with that. This, he basically said like, hey, this is my vision, completely uncompromised. Like this is I wanted to do the studio my way, and I've been able to do that, and like he's super excited about that. And it really seems like Callisto Protocol is like kind of an unflinching version of his vision that he really kind of laid out the outline for with the original Dead Space.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I've only been at this 3 years now, but like you talk to different devs, you're right, they react differently, and I would say most of them are, you have to be passionate to be in this industry, but you could really feel it when you talk to Glenn and the rest of the team, from top to bottom, PR, design, like, art and stuff like that. They all like had this like youthful exuberance for this game about crushing heads and too many teeth and stuff like that. But there was this joy there that was infectious and made, myself, Marcus, and Shay even more excited to get into this. So I'm very excited about it. I'm excited for y'all to see some of the stuff that we're working on for YouTube. And Shay, is there anything you want to? The digital magazine's out right now, correct?
Yeah, I mean, some print subscribers have already even started getting their copies. So like, yeah, like if you have a subscription, check that mailbox. If you have a digital subscription, we have an app that you can download, or you can access it on, I believe it's GameInformer.com/magazine and you'll just have to like link your profile and your email address. But yeah, you're right about that. With like, there's a different energy about this team that I really, really dig. It's almost like when you go see a band and like they're just having the time of their lives up on stage, and it really transcends like the stage and filters over into the audience, and then suddenly the audience is like, wow, they're having such a great time, we're having a great time now too because of that. And that's like almost what it feels. It's like I was looking forward to this game. Like I was like really like excited when he said he was going to do like a Dead Space-esque game. And but yeah, I was like, oh, I'll play that when it comes out probably. And then like talking to them and like feeling like how enthusiastic they are about this, and like then seeing it in action, of course, it's like, okay, I get it now. Like I'm on board too.